Hey, Woj, I got a question for you. Why do most security practitioners say they have the right number of analysts in their organization and believe they have the right number of tools in place, yet nearly half say they are losing the battle when it comes to prioritizing real threats?
Oh, Jesse, hit me off with a compelling question right out of the gate. No intro, no like soft launch.
Nothing, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's a great question. In a word, I think it's trust, right?
Yeah.
Half of them feel or struggle with prioritizing threats, right? To me, that's like, despite having the right amount of tools in place, despite having enough people, etc. I mean, it tells me that, you know, they're confident in the number of people, they're confident in the number of tools they have. They're not confident in their ability to understand what's a real threat or not. And I'd love to peel back the onion with you on that one because I think we have a trust issue.
Those are all things I expected to come out of your mouth.
Hey, everybody.
But
Well,
why would I ask you that? Why do
yeah,
you?
yeah. I mean, let's get into it. Hey, everybody. This is Woj here, Cyberminds podcast, joined by my friend, colleague, co-researcher at Vectra AI, Jesse Kimbrel. We're just gonna have a candid conversation today. Totally unscripted, but semi-scripted because our third. Is this our third one, Jesse?
Third year.
Third
Yeah.
state of threat
Third is
detection
out.
report just came out. I just posted about this on LinkedIn because it's interesting as a, as a researchers, you like to see year over year trends and you like to see year over year, hopefully, progress being made. But your first question tells me there's not a lot of progress being made. And the data tells me the trend lines just, it's kind of flatlined, so to speak. There's, it's not getting better, it's not getting worse, which it gets me to start thinking about, are we asking the right questions? Right? Is this a tired topic? Should we be asking different questions in our research? Anyway, let's riff on it. State of threat detection. I think, what did we call this one this year? Last year was Defender Dilemma, right?
Yeah. So the last couple of years we've posed it as, so to back up, each year Vectra puts out for the past 3 years something called the State of Threat Detection and Response. It's a report that we ask thousands of security practitioners ranging from SOC leaders, security engineers, analysts, CISOs all around the globe, a bunch of questions about everything from tools, how they're dealing with alerts, their workload. And then as we've gone over the last few years, we've gotten a bit more into AI and what that means in their day-to-day. So through that research, we collect a bunch of responses and have fun analyzing it, wrap a report around it. And yeah, this year's is out. So that's what we're doing here. We're talking about the 2026 version.
I have my rant on it. I have my perspective of the third year and what we're learning, but I want to see if mine jives with yours. Like, what were some of your takeaways from it?
It's interesting. Like this year, we having another year of AI information, right? How security practitioners are looking at AI, the usage a little more, where in years past, it was like, how are you guys adopting AI? Like what that looks like. Now we're actually seeing whether it's how it's being used, what they want from it, that sort of thing. Like, and so the takeaways there are like, my initial big takeaway is that while they're using AI and while it's becoming a bigger thing in the SOC, just like it is for everyone, including you and I in our day-to-day, they are seeing positive impacts, but the measurable results that you would think you'd be seeing from that kind of haven't happened yet, right? In terms of, like we just talked about, prioritizing threats,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
real things that actually matter for a practitioner.
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of walk away with the same. I just walk away with more questions, which is why I like, and that's kind of the role of research, right? It's like you're not looking for, you know, some research. Yes, you look for the headlines, right? But for me, I think about like, okay, what does this make me question even more? Which is why I was like, okay, this is the third year in a row where we see the same element. Like I'm a big no change, right? It's not changing, right? We see the same, thousands of
Yeah.
alerts, 20 plus tools, and what I'm trying to do is dig into the data a little bit and the perception of practitioners and kind of their mindset, right? And their, what's working, what's not working, what should we ask? What's the follow-up research to this, right? And there's just like a ton of questions ringing through my head in terms of like, you know, um, we we kind of root it in understanding what the needs are, right? The need to reduce the number of alerts. I don't know if that's necessarily the need. The need to, like your first question you asked me, I'm like, the need is still the ability to prioritize what threats matter, right? What's worth their time and talent and energy and all that good stuff. I almost want to reframe it the next time we do this, or maybe even a supplemental report this year where we look at, does anyone ask them what they want? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, yeah, AI, it's magical. It's a magic wand. Like everybody has AI and it's a magical thing, right? And it's like, it's not really. It's a tool. It's like, what do they want
Yeah.
it to do? We got some of that out of this report. What do they want it to do for them? Right? They want it to triage, right? It wants to, alerts that come in. They want it to like do some level of validation. They want it to do some level of, they want to get rid of the kind of the mundane part of the job, right?
Sure.
And then I ask myself, why do they want that? Like, what's the reason? Because the job's not fun? Because no, I think they're like I'd love to ask the why. I think what human nature is like, because I want to do something meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You
I
know?
mean, I equate it to like all the busy work that happens, not just for a SOC practitioner, but like anyone who has a job. It's like you have these tasks that just almost are like noise that come about all the time. Where, yeah, I think there's a real practical use case for AI to like take away some of that noise. Like in this case, it's triage. Like, am I going to spend hours a day triaging alerts, or is there a tool that helps me get the information I need so I can make decisions, which is what I'm actually paid to do, or
And well,
and good at doing, right?
yeah, you just said the word. It kind of like get faster to decision, right? I think
Yeah.
that's one element of it, and it's like I think we've been tackling like this alert noise and analyst burnout and all that kind of stuff, which we didn't see in the data. Not a lot of analyst burnout. I don't know if we kept asking the question or not, but it was like we didn't want to go down the path of analyst burnout. It was more like we did go down the path of like, okay, is alert volume getting better? And it's getting slightly better on average year over year, but it's still in the thousands, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the problem, right? Maybe there's always going to be thousands of alerts. It's just the nature of threats, right? The nature of the environment that they're dealing with and they're trying to protect, which is why I'm like, flip the equation and stop asking about the symptoms of a bigger problem. Ask about the bigger problem and what we think the bigger problem is. Have a perspective on that. Um, I think AI is
Yeah.
when you think about it, I think AI is a problem amplifier. It's a giant opportunity, right? For organizations. I think lines of business leaders see that. I think across the organization, I think employees see that. There's a lot of untapped potential when it comes to how do you leverage AI, but then there's a ton of risk associated with it as well on both you know, and how do you manage that? I think that's the fundamental questions everyone's trying to answer. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why? What's the balance of opportunity and risk? And at the end of the day, this word's been used a lot. I want to do a podcast on this with some CISOs or whatever, but that word that's been thrown around security marketing for a long time, resilience, right? We're all after resilience, right? And I'm like, what is resilience? Well, you look up the definition of it. It's like quickly respond to something, ensure that there's no disruption, right? Et cetera, et cetera. It's a question that I'd ultimately like to ask the audience that we talk to with state of threat detection is, how do you arrive at resilience? What is resilience at an individual level and then at an organizational level? And what's the path to get there? Because I think that's the ultimate want at the end of the day. Are we, resilient to an attack? How do you build resilience? How do you prove it? What role does AI play in that equation? At the end of the day, I think,
Yeah.
it's most likely speed. I think there's a certain element of accuracy that needs to, that we're seeing in the data, it's helping. Your point about it's helping, but I don't know how much it's helping. I can't quantify it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that we can quantify it based on what we're seeing here. It's definitely the theme of resilience is present when you look through the data and the research. You mentioned alerts a couple times, and that's almost like, especially this year, it seems like less of a theme. Which, when you tie certain data points back to like that theme of resilience, do alerts? One question I had is like, do alerts really matter? Because they've gone down a little each year. I think close to like the average number is like 1,400 alerts less this year than they were the first year we did, and that's like a ballpark number, right? So from 3 years, they're down quite a bit. But you look at the results, they haven't really changed. Like the amount of defenders who still feel like they're losing the battle prioritizing threats. So is an alert, like, you have thousands of alerts. In our case, like with the Vectra platform, a SOC analyst would get the prioritized list of alerts because of the way our engine prioritizes threats that need to be addressed. But you do wonder from the mindset of an analyst, somebody looking at the dashboard, okay, do they address those prioritized ones? No. Okay, these are the ones I have to do, and then the other ones are just like your spam, and so there's going to be thousands of, like, there's just more questions I have about that as they tie into broader themes like resilience, or because every alert obviously doesn't matter, but so many are still getting unaddressed.
Yeah, I mean, this just goes to, there's just other conversations in terms of like buying behavior, right? Or like evaluation criteria. The vendor that has the most threat detections is the best vendor. Well, the vendor that has the most threat detections is probably the one that has the most alerts, right? And the ability to detect something happening and then alert on it obviously doesn't lead to resilience. Breaches are only going up and to the right. More detections are being created. More alerts are being fired. Well, less alerts are being fired. So there's some element that's getting better, but still in the thousands. I don't know. I think of alerts or individual threat detections, threat events, indicators, if you will. They're like, I equate them to like, this comes through in like when I throw my marketing hat on. And this is kind of something relative to state of threat detection, is like, in security, we live in a world of sound bites. Like everything's a sound
For
bite.
sure.
A sound bite, a stat, a headline, a an alert and a detected event, whatever it might be. They're all like sound bites. And as humans, yeah, sound bites grab your attention. Some do, some don't. But as humans, we want to hear about the story, right? What story is this telling? So shouldn't AI or whatever, any technology, shouldn't it be collecting all the sound bites in order to paint a picture of the story? Doesn't the analyst, the practitioner, want to know a story? What's the story of this attacker? What are they doing in our environment? Put all the sound bites together and tell me a story, and then I'll determine whether or not it's something I need to take action on. But you can help me by putting the picture together and telling me the story. If I'm a CISO, don't give me sound bites. Don't give me individual stats. Tell me a story that I can tell the board or the C-suite. What's the story of our posture, our resilience story, our whatever. So it's just like, my frustration and sometimes my guilt is I get wrapped around the soundbite. Everyone wants to find a soundbite. What's going to grab people's attention?
Buzzword.
The buzzword, stat, all these like things.
Whatever.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just struggle to tell a flippin' story. Like, I'd rather tell stories. Right? That's the purpose of research. Is you do find a lot of sound bites, and I think.
I mean, yeah. If we just put out the raw data, like, would that be interesting?
Yeah,
No.
I mean, and it's just
we
like,
got to put a story around it.
and it's funny because it's like state of threat detection in 3 years. It's great. It's great research. We get some good insight from it into the mind of the practitioner, and we, like I said, we get more questions. We get a lot of sound bites, and we try to like put those sound bites together and turn it into a story. It's like, what is this data telling us? And then sometimes you come to the realization, at least personally for me, I came to the realization that like, it's time to tell a new story. This is kind of an old one. Alert noise, tool sprawl, that's the same old song, different album art, right? It's like, what's the different story to tell? And I think and that's where, as a researcher, I'm like, what questions is this data asking? What questions is this data or these findings or this year's story of state of threat detection? What is it driving? What different types of questions and conversations should we be starting with security practitioners in order to tell a different story? Well, I think that's one that's kind of rooted in more in what they want to hear versus like what they've been hearing and what they've been living over and over again for the past, 3 years of this research, but arguably decade of quote unquote alert noise, analyst fatigue, tool sprawl, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's funny you mention it because right before we got on this podcast, one of the questions that I had written was, are there other things that we should have asked? Are there other, like, we've done this for 3 years. Are there other insights that would be more valuable to someone who picks up this report to read? Like, yes, there are some new things this year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a question I want to know before we do this again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is what's actually changing?
And
because a lot of what we're seeing here isn't changing.
Right. I mean, it's obviously you ask some of the same questions year over year, kind of see what's trending, right? But then it's like, as we go through the assessment of this year's findings, and granted, we're not going to wait a year to ask these other questions. There's like, what's the report tell us now? Okay, what additional questions do we need to ask? There's other ways of getting the answers to those. One is, we talk to practitioners all the time, right? Yeah, and how does that shape like the annual report next year, right? What shifts? What new questions come in? Which ones do we continue asking because we want to see if it's indicative of something that needs to be addressed? But yeah, if you're not, if research doesn't spur curiosity and questioning, then it's probably not that good research. I should probably think about trying something else or asking a different set of questions. I think the research is great. I think, 3 years of it, it's fantastic, but it is, I think it's time to start asking some different questions.
I think that's fair. Were there points within this latest report, data points, questions, findings, where you were like, hey, that's a pretty interesting angle. That's something I didn't know. That's something I want to learn more about or dive more into. Anything
Yeah.
stand out to you there?
I think that, I think this was last year and this year over year. I think the notion of, I didn't feel a lot of cynicism around the promise of AI, like
Yeah.
as a tool to help the human. I don't feel like there's this cynicism or fear or concern about it replacing the job of the analyst. And in my opinion, I don't think it ever will. It might replace some aspects of the job, which
Right.
is a good thing. Like the less time you spend doing mundane stuff and the more time you spend on, again, like back to our original beginning of the conversation, the more time you spend like doing something meaningful, both personally and for the organization, that's better. And if AI can get you there, great. That's what it should be doing, right?
Sure.
Critical thinking, creative problem solving, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that I don't feel like the cynicism exists as much as it did in years past. Um, but I do go back to the original statement. I do think that there's a trust issue, not mistrust or distrust, but kind of um, the quantification of value of AI, right, in their day to day for both the individual, the security team, the organization. I think that I wouldn't say it's cynicism, but I would say it's more of like I need to fully trust it. I need to really feel and see the quantifiable difference that it's making. Because they feel the difference, but they don't know how to prove the difference and quantify it and inform people of that. So I think there's work to do there, quite honestly. And how you begin to quantify that, metrics, whatever you use, measurement, that's always been a challenge in security. How do you measure the effectiveness of something?
Yeah,
Means,
there was like, no, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because you're talking about the AI sentiment more or less, but like there was, I was just kind of looking through it right now, but one of the questions was like, why is AI or why are AI agents not being implemented? And when we looked at it from last year's data to this year's data, like there was this just some different findings there in terms of, which goes back to your point on, yeah, there's not as much cynicism as people may have thought, or maybe just like everyone, you're getting so used to AI that you might be just having more trust in it, right? And you know what it's good at,
Oh,
where it can help you, rather than, oh, is this thing out to get me? Is it, is it like that kind of thinking?
it's getting better. I think it's getting
It's
better,
getting better,
and
right?
I
Yeah,
think people are figuring out where it fits. Right?
for
I
sure.
think, the big shift, and I'll leave you, we'll kind of leave with this, because we can go on for an hour on this stuff, but it's like, I think, the last couple of years, like we've been doing AI for a long time, like over a decade, right? At
Right.
Vectra, at least applying AI ML to network data to kind of understand attacker behaviors and whatnot. But really, last 2 to 3 years, there's been AI as the kind of the buzzword in cyber. I think the first few years it was kind of, there was that cynicism, there was that mistrust, uncertainty around it. I think we've turned the corner on that, and now it's more of like people are figuring out where it makes sense, in terms of like, what tasks we trust it to take over, right, and do for us, so that we're freed up to do other things. So we do it every day in marketing. Like, we use it to help. We use it in research, right? We make sure it's not
incredibly efficient at processing
but
data,
it doesn't make the decision for us.
No.
It helps us ask more questions and puts us on a direction towards decision. We ultimately make the decision. I think that's true in security too. It's like, hey, get me closer to decision, right? Don't waste my time. And that's my big kind of takeaway. It's like, I think we've turned a corner. But I think the big hurdle to get over is like, okay, now how do you begin to quantify the value of it? At an individual level, at a team level, department level, organizational level, et cetera. And seize that opportunity, but then at the same time manage that risk.
I hear you. I mean, I think like just seeing the difference from, yes, we're adopting it, to here's what I want it to do, because I've tried it now for a few years. I know what it's good at. I've tried it. Sometimes I go and ask it to do something, it doesn't do it. So I'm not going to ask it to do that anymore. Like, it's just like, that's how you learn. That's how.
For me personally, it's a toy. It was a toy for the first, early stages of using it. And it's like, this doesn't work. I could do it better than this or whatever. It's like, I'm not good. But the better it got, the more I used it, the more I figured out how it can be used, the more it started to benefit me. And then the more it like got me faster to decision. And I think, great. Like, the faster you can get to decision, I think the more resilient you are as an organization, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what resilience is. It's like the speed to decision, to, whether it's to reduce exposure, stop an active threat, improve posture, deliver business continuity, make sure nothing goes down. That's how resilient are you in this day and age. It's going to take AI to be resilient against AI. That's a whole separate conversation, Jesse.
Yes, for sure.
And maybe research. So we'll put that on our back burner. Anyway, fun talk. I appreciate it. I like ranting with you.
That went fast.
Riffing. Yeah, it was like, what is that, 28 minutes? Wow. Apologize. Thankful for the people that sat through the whole thing. Comment, like, share, hit us up. Woj and Jesse.
Grab the report. We'll add the report in the notes, so you go get it. It's free. Check it out.
Yeah, grab it, read it. What questions does it spur? It doesn't create curiosity and drive more questions, and it probably wasn't worth doing. I think it does. I think I got more questions. So, Jesse, thanks. Hanging out on a Friday.
Thanks, Woj.
In the old Cyberminds podcast booth, virtual. Everyone, thanks for listening in. Until next time. Thanks, everybody.